Hi there guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today you're joining me in an Audi A8. I've not had an A8 before, certainly not on the channel, and I've not actually had one in my stock range yet. I've driven them previously, but this is the first of this generation, so I've yet to have one of these. And I have to say, I'm quite impressed on first impressions. When it first arrived, I thought it looks really quite smart. There's not a bad angle on it in my personal opinion. There is also a long wheelbase version of this car. This is just the standard wheelbase, and I have to say that's big enough. So you know, a long wheelbase being even bigger, you could get some impracticalities, I suppose. But as this one stands, it's very smart. It's the 50 TDI, which is a 3-litre V6. Obviously, they did away with just having the 2-litre TDI in the back or the 3-litre TDI. They went to these like power bandings. So the 50 TDI produces about 280 brake horsepower, just over, and that's paired with this semi-automatic gearbox. It's a great gearbox to have. It's an 8-speed, and I've ranted and raved in previous videos of mine. I think the 3-litre V6, along with an 8-speed, is a really good setup. You get the best of both worlds. You've got performance there when you need it. It's not too hesitant because there's too many to choose from, but you also get a good level of economy when you sat at those motorway speeds and the revs are relatively low. Being an Audi, being an A8, and certainly being one of their flagship models, it also has the Quattro system, which is obviously famous throughout the motoring industry, and for good reason. I think an Audi with a Quattro system is far superior to an Audi without it. So it does make for a much more exciting drive, in my opinion. I think if you're going to go for one of these kind of big lumpy German cars, the Quattro system's definitely one to consider. And again, being the top of the line that it is, it comes with a huge array of goodies. I was yet to see anything of this era. I've said it in previous videos, I'm much more a person who likes physical buttons and dials, and I jumped into this and I think it looks very impressive to have all of the haptic touch kind of sensitive fan controls and screens and everything. It looks smart. I've never taken away from that. I think it looks great. In terms of practicality, it's not my favourite, but we'll get into that in a little while. To actually drive it, I love it. I think it's great. I think it's plenty of comfort, there's plenty of power. It doesn't feel heavy as much as you know you're driving a big car. It certainly feels bigger than the 6 Series that I've recently filmed with, and obviously the 6 Series isn't a small car. It feels wide and you feel like you're a bit of a king of the road. But I don't mind that by any means. I think that's quite a nice thing to have when you're looking for something that you can just continuously do a lot of miles in. So yeah, first impressions on the drive was that it was ever so responsive. I can do different drive modes and select modes and things like that, and that does change how it responds to what you put into it. I think it looks great from all angles, as I've mentioned. I like the solid LED light bar across the back. I think that looks quite futuristic, and I think it will keep the car looking modern for quite some time. And then interior, as I say, it all looks very smart. I like this virtual cockpit. I've said again in previous videos of mine that Audi are one of the better manufacturers out there, in my opinion, to do it. It's all quite easy to navigate your way through it on steering wheel controls. It's very precise and very clear. At the moment, I've got the map as the main component, and the dials are quite small, but at the press of a button, it flips that around, so it brings the dials to be bigger, and the map then goes into the background. But again, you can set it up as to how you'd like it to be. The electric heated memory seats are quite nice, but again comes into that impracticality side of it. So I've got these 2 switches down here, one of which moves me backwards and forwards, and the other which does my back piece on there. I was then looking around trying to find, because when I first picked it up from my trader friend, he's quite a bit taller than me, and he had this knee bit extended out too far for me. So I'm looking around for ages on this bit, like trying to figure out where it is that I retract this. It's within the touchscreen menu. So you've got to go into car, into the seat section, choose that one there to adapt this bit, and then press these 2 arrows as to whether you want it in or out. And I think in terms of a visualization, it's quite cool, but it is quite unnecessary. I'm having to take my eyes away from the road to make that adjustment, and you're having to be quite accurate in where you place your finger, because of course it's not a button, it's just one big touch screen. So you are having to concentrate a little bit too much for my liking away from what it is that you're looking at. Maybe I'm being too dramatic about it, I don't know. Same with lumbar supports and things like that. It's all within the seat menu on here, when there was nothing wrong with it being on the base, in my opinion. Why change something that isn't broke? Just because you can doesn't always necessarily mean that you should. But you know, that's my gripe. You may not share it. You may think it's actually great that it's in there. It keeps it nice and neat. There's no doubt about it. It is a lovely, neat looking center console, but sometimes I do just like a physical button / dial. There are no dials with the climate control. Again, it's all on this secondary touchscreen down at the bottom here. It took me far too long to figure out how to turn off the stop and start. It's just this little one on the top of the second screen. I was expecting a physical button. I don't know why. I think I was used to it. So to put it into a bit of perspective, I only have 3 physical buttons on this center console bit, one of which being the start button, one of which when I press it just turns you to the assist menu, so you're still going back to the touch screen side of things, and then the other which is a camera, which brings it up on the front when you're doing a parking maneuver and things like that. It does have quite cool 3D camera technology. So I first saw the 3D camera technology when they released the Land Rover Defender in 2020. I didn't realise that Audi had actually had it for 2 years prior to them. As I say, this is my first of this generation that I've had come through the showroom. All in all, I am very impressed, but I just think, I don't know, it's a gripe that I have. It's not just Audi, it's any manufacturer. The later Range Rovers and things where it's all touchscreen, I like to have physical buttons, but that's just me. It doesn't take away from my driving experience, of which it is very pleasant. The heads-up display is really nice, crystal clear, gives a good level of information. You've got adaptive cruise, you've got the lane assist. It's got a couple of packs on this particular one, including the technology pack, which has that heads-up display, and it also has like a safety pack, which gives you like the it's like a brake assist if you're approaching a car or a car's pulling out of a junction. It will hit your brakes for you and things like that. So from a safe, I feel very solid and I feel very safe within this car, albeit it does feel quite big. But it also feels quite muscular, feels a real muscle car. And I think Audi do that quite well, especially combined with that Quattro system. It feels like it's got a good get up and go about it. And I can just sit and I can do a load of miles in a lot of comfort, yeah, and just be happy to be in it. I love the ambient lighting that it has. It wraps around from the doors all across the dash. I mean, that's not unusual. We see that in a few manufacturers. It's got it up on the roof lining and in the back there as well. So it's a lovely place to be. There's no doubt about that. The tech is very cool. The B&O sound system is absolutely brilliant because you've got 3 speakers within each door, a nice big bar across the front which has got a couple of subs in it, and there's a couple of subs behind the rear headrester too. So yeah, that's quite cool. As I mentioned, the electric heated memory seats, you've got 2 memory settings on there, which is quite cool. Another bit of tech which I hadn't seen before are the door handles. I know it's going to sound strange when I say they're almost like electronically assisted, because all I've got to do, I'm not going to do obviously whilst I'm driving, but all I've got to do is pull on it slightly and it opens the door. It's not on like a retractable thing, but it just opens the door ever so easily on both the inside and the outside. So it's got keyless entry and keyless start. You've only got to kind of tap it or pull it slightly and it will open it. It's got the blind spot assist, which is quite a cool thing. So it really is spec'd up as you would expect for a flagship model to be. A lovely place to be. The seat bases are really nice. They're big, they're comfortable. The leather's a really nice plush feel to it. So everything about it I like. Just this center screen here, and maybe just like the gloss black that we've got. Oh, nice big puddle that there. But again, no worries going through that. The only thing I will say, even the fan controls, whether you want like your separate vents and things, that's all touch, and the light switches are touch and all of that. I cleaned this obviously to do the photos. I've not been driving it for very long and it's already covered in my fingerprints everywhere. I don't like that. I'd rather they used either a different material or, going to sound like a broken record, just buttons and dials, because to see your fingerprints all over your freshly clean car doesn't excite me that much. But in terms of a drive, I really do like it. It gets a really good economy for the size of vehicle that it is as well. You get a good response from throttle. So if I put my foot down now, it's reactive, pushes you back, gives you that muscly feel. As I say, great fun to drive, there's no doubt about that. And in terms of an economy, trip computer, short-term memory, so on my drive on this here, I've been getting 39 miles to the gallon, which is just country roads and country. I mean, I've not been pinning it, and we've been doing a pretty consistent speed, but it is hills, it is turns. For a car of this size, I'd like to think you'd be getting into the mid-40s on a run. Excellent. Look at where you are, look at the place that you have, look at all the tech that's around you, and you're still getting a good economy from a 3-litre V6, which has the get up and go as and when you want it. The tax is really reasonable because it's just coming out of it now, of the first 5 years of the tax enforcement, because obviously this would have been probably about £70,000 new, of which it would have had that higher bracket on for the first 5 years. So now it's now dropped down to it's £180 a year to tax for what is essentially a big luxury saloon. Can't gripe at that, that's quite good. And the value that it is now, I think, is astounding. As mentioned, I bought it from a trader friend, which I buy quite a lot of cars from, and he's saying everything that it's got the heads-up display, 360 3D cameras, B&O sound system, all the bits, full Audi history. It's done 71,000 miles, which I'm not worried about in the slightest. I thought, okay, yeah, that sounds like it's going to be a nice car, but, you know, what's the monies? I've got this up at retail at 25,995, so £26,000 this car, and I just think, what an enormous amount of car for that level of value. I'm not going to say that £26,000 isn't a lot of money, because it is, but the level of car you get for £26,000 is fantastic. I have a small gripe with the tech, but the tech is very, very good. There's no coming away from it. The drive is nice, the cabin's nice and quiet as you're going along. It's a good, solid engine and gearbox setup. I'd be happy to pay that. I mean, I'm biased, I know, because it's on my forecourt. But if I was reviewing someone else's Audi A8 and they told me that it was £26,000, I think, yeah, what a lot of car for that kind of money. The keys are quite cool as well. They're these little keys, and they're not too big, because some of the manufacturers now have got these ginormous keys that you can't really have in your pocket in a very comfortable way. But these are just a nice, minimalistic, got it here, just easy, just a simple, easy setup with the key, which I quite like. There's nothing I don't like other than the central bit, and it doesn't take away from it that much. I still enjoy the drive too much for it to put me off the car completely. The ambient lighting is a really nice touch. You can change the colours and everything like that. The screens, as much as I don't like having to use them whilst I'm driving, they still look very smart when my fingerprints aren't smudged all over it. It's got the wireless charging for your phone. It's got Apple CarPlay / Android Auto. What's not to like? It's big, but you've still got a great level of capabilities when it comes to parking it. The economy's good, the power's good. Yeah, very pleased. Right, so I'm just coming up to the hill that I normally do a bit on. I mean, that is quick. There's no getting away from that. That is a very quick, secure, muscular feeling of this car. The Quattro system's great. You get a good level that you've got grip, and the response from the engine and the gearbox is excellent. So the more I drive it, the more I grow to like it. And if I didn't have my dogs, I think I'd probably, well, seriously consider this being my day-to-day car. It's great. I think it's, you know, normally I'm a massive fan of BMW. I'm a great fan of Range Rover. Audi I've not paid too much attention to. But this A8, I think, hits it all quite nicely on the head. The size of it's good. I like a big car. The comfort's great. The sound system's fantastic. The virtual cockpit, everything about it's really quite smart. I just wished if this bottom screen here was buttons and dials, I'd be happy. I'd be peachy. But, you know, tech is becoming that way. I'm following now 19 plate Audi A6, 40 TDI, and I choose the A8 over that, even though that's the Avant. Just something about it. Just really quite like it. I really hope you enjoyed the review. I'm hoping to do one a week, so please do hit that subscribe button. It helps me out massively. And yeah, I shall see you for the next one. Thank you.